Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is going to be a good one. I love these things. I love all the Can-Am three-wheelers, so we're going to talk a lot more about them on this channel. So in this review, what we're going to do is compare the Canyon Red Rock, which we've looked at before, with the base level Canyon. So this is sort of where the lineup starts, this is where it finishes. There is a model in between, but we can use the two of these to kind of show you a little bit of what you get on everything. I will be reviewing every possible version of this that we can, but keep in mind there's a lot of accessories that can turn this pretty close into this, but not completely. So what we're going to do in this video is talk all about the differences between these two, if it's worth going up to this, if it's worth staying with this, and we're going to help you decide which one is best for you. So if you've watched my channel before, you know I love to talk about motorcycles, all the Can-Am product. I'm going to have a lot more Can-Am product coming up very soon, including riding reviews of these things, so you have a little bit more of a perspective on that. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, do me a favor, obviously hit the subscribe button, that really helps, but just find a few videos that you really like of mine, 2-3 videos over the course of a week or two, and watch them to the end. If you watch them to the end, it really helps me grow, and it gives me access to people like Extreme Torque Motorsports. These guys are awesome, 2 locations here in New Brunswick. They are absolutely amazing, super knowledgeable. Anytime I have questions, they know how to find me the answer. Half the time they just know off the top of their head. They're awesome to work with, so give them a check out. The link is in the description of this video, but let's get going with this review. So the first thing I always like to do is to place these in a class. Now this is primarily a motorcycle channel, and I have a lot of motorcycle people upset with me when I say these are basically adventure class three-wheelers. Now, people get upset, that's not an adventure bike, and that's not, and I get it. Adventure bikes can be crazy. You look at the top end BMWs, they can go across the world and that kind of thing. Many of them cost more than these, so there's all of that balance in there. I am not trying to claim that this will replace a top-end adventure motorcycle for everyone. What I will say though is in the three-wheeled segment, these are the adventure class vehicles, and I also want to point out that the type of adventuring that I do on my little adventure motorcycle that I just recently bought is the same type of stuff I would do on this. Now my motorcycle may be more capable in some ways, it has more suspension travel, it has more ground clearance, but at the end of the day, to this point, there is nothing that I can't do on my adventure motorcycle that I couldn't do on this, and in some cases this is going to be much better as an adventure vehicle. So I would put these in my own category of adventure bikes, and I know adventure bikes can kind of be broad ranging, but there are some adventure bikes that I call exploring adventure bikes. Basically, adventure bikes that can take you down any road, any rough road or poorly finished road, and gravel and dirt roads. These are going to do that just fine. And if your idea of adventure is heading down any road, any gravel or adventure or gravel or dirt road as well, seeing what's out there, and some of the best trips here in New Brunswick, you can head down some dirt roads and see some cool covered bridges, or you can head down some fire roads and head up top and you can find like some of the most amazing views of the ocean out here in New Brunswick. These are going to be awesome for that. So this would be in the category of adventure motorcycles, more along the exploring line, but obviously extremely touring capable because of those 3 wheels, which give you so many advantages in so many ways. So let's talk about these in detail and compare the two of them. So in my motorcycle reviews, I always like to talk about the front wheel first, because I always say you can tell the manufacturer's intent. Now the front wheel and tire sizes are the same. We'll show you the side view in a little bit. There's some sticker differences and that kind of thing, color differences, but you have the same basic tread. It's a bit more of an off-road tread. Now I don't think Jeep off-road, but I would say certainly Subaru off-road, and maybe Subaru, you know, the, what do you call those? The, not the Outback, but the Crosstrek, you know, the ones with the orange, gold icons. We'll get to that. I'll write it in somewhere. Anyways, these are semi-off-road tires. The other thing worth noting is all 2025 Spyders and Canyons, but Spyders especially, have a stiffer or a tougher tire than they used to have in the past. So these, again, nice and tough tires, and of course they're custom to this vehicle. So you've got this little bit more off-road tread. And then on the Red Rock here, which is the top line version that we're looking at, you have the electronic suspension, is the premium level suspension. So you're going to see the differences there. One thing worth noting compared to a Spyder, we did talk about this in the past, some of your suspension pieces are definitely beefier here than they would be on something like a Spyder. So that's the Red Rock. Let's go directly to the base level, just the regular Canyon, and make a comparison here. So taking a look at this base level Canyon, you have the same tires here, you have the same, all the hard pieces are the same, you do not have that adaptable adjustable suspension. Now, is this a massive downgrade? I haven't done a proper riding review of these yet. I will talk about that in my riding impressions when we get to that. That's kind of the reason to tune into those riding impressions videos. But I will say that in general, any Can-Am Spyder, any Can-Am Ryker has had very, very good suspension. I wouldn't expect the base Canyon suspension to be any different, but if you're someone who wants precision and the adaptability of adjusting your suspension, obviously the Red Rock is going to give you that. This one does not have any adjustment. There is a difference in the rear suspension. Let's take a quick look at the this Canyon here, the non-Red Rock edition, the base Canyon, and take a look at the rear suspension for just 1 second, because there is a difference between all three trims that we should point out. So taking a look at the base Canyon here, just called the Canyon. There's the Canyon XT, and the Canyon Red Rock. This one does have a long, you can see the linkage there, good size shock on the rear. This is the only one in the lineup with this shock. When you move to the XT, you get an enhanced rear shock. I assume that means some adjustability. I have not seen that one yet in person, so we'll have to take a look at that when we get it. But it is worth noting that a lot of people think, oh, I'll just make this one into the next one by throwing some bags on that, and that's fine, but you do have an enhanced rear shock on the XT. Obviously on the Red Rock, you've got a more advanced suspension again, so that's worth pointing out. All right, let's quickly jump on this bike and show you a couple things, and then we're gonna start taking a look at luggage possibilities and capabilities as equipped. So one of the absolute best features about Spyders and about this Canyon is they really can be compared to generally heavy motorcycles. The Spyder to a touring motorcycle like a Goldwing, and this to an adventure motorcycle. But even at stop, this thing is just completely stable and comfortable. So what you end up having is a large adventure capable rig. You can't take a Goldwing to the types of dirt roads that you could take this on, or at least you'd have to be a pretty comfortable rider, and it's probably gonna be a little more sketchy. But this thing here gives you that very much adventure bike feel. So couple differences between this and the Red Rock. This one has the large aluminum footrests. We're going to show you them in a second, or foot pegs. I call them footrests just because they're so much larger than a typical motorcycle foot peg. So they are non-adjustable. They are where they are, but they do put you in a position where you can stand. You can put the weight forward on this thing, keep the weight on the front wheels. You have a very much adventure riding position, which is very, very good. Riding position is identical on these, as is the general view here. I'll show you a couple of the differences when we get a little closer, but the general view is very, very similar between the two of them. Now, this one has the rear seat on it. I thought it was not going to come with a rear seat on the base model, but it does have it. We're going to show you some of the adventure stuff in the back. The seats are different between these two, and certainly the driver's seat, I don't know that the seat alone is enough to move up to the Red Rock. From what I can tell, it probably has the same padding in both. Now, the couple of the differences is you can get heated seats when you move one trim up. You would have to add that as an accessory here. So this is the tricky model. As you move up from the accessories here, you have to decide, is it worth adding just accessories to the base model? If you like it as is, then great. And we're going to talk about how to like it as is as we go. But if you start adding some of the accessories that are already in the trim above, it might make sense to go to the trim above to have that upgraded shock, to have a couple little different things, and the value equation may work out a little bit better for you. But overall, you still have the same adjustable windshield. That's the exact same on this. It's a manual adjust with your left hand. Over here you still have cruise control, you still have a big dash with Apple CarPlay, so you've got a lot of things going for you. Obviously the adjustable suspension that can be adjusted through the dash is not on this one, but it's a pretty comfortable place, and I think to the average person, you're gonna feel the luxury at this price point that you feel at that price point. That one certainly has the cool look and a little bit different, maybe better paint job for some people, but from just sitting here and looking at the general features, you do have the same basic feeling. One little thing worth pointing out on this one, it does not have a backup camera on this trim level, so that is something that you may or may not want. Without the rear boxes on this one, obviously you can see right behind you, but if you had a passenger and rear boxes, it is nice to have that backup camera, especially as you're parallel parking, because you can really kind of see. Once you get some bags on here, it does become a little harder to see the rear end. So it's nice to have. Do you need it? Not at all, but it is nice to have, and you can't get the rear, well, this doesn't come with that rear backup camera. Let's keep moving through. So starting here with taking a look at the rear seat, we did mention no heated grips on the rear seat, but you still have that rubbery grip everywhere. So it's not that cold metal, cold to touch. Now you may be seeing this button down here. That is a dummy button. Obviously you can put in things here. You could accessorize this up as you go. I believe this seat is also removable. In fact, I'm almost positive it's removable, but I haven't played with it yet, so I'm not gonna try to figure that out on video yet. With it removed, you do have extensive cargo area, and there's a couple little tricks up its sleeve here which you can see without the top box on. You have the link system, which is LINQ. That is the standard system that uses these various connector style things on anything Can-Am, anything BRP. So really snowmobiles, ATVs, side-by-sides, Sea-Doos, all that stuff has this link system. So a lot of time you can cross over with some of your accessories, but obviously something like the Canyon's gonna have some custom accessories that fit up back here. So one of the things that I like is you can get a very large, essentially a plate back here, a rack back here, a lot sort of similar to an ATV. That's gonna allow you to strap on everything with dry bags, and it's probably the cheapest possible way to take the most possible luggage. One thing that is a little bit of a shame with the Canyon, we'll go wide angle here, a little bit of shame with the Canyon is the front trunk does not exist on this. That was one of the things that the Spider gave you, whether in the RT or the Limited, that had a nice little extra thing over a motorcycle. So this one does not have that. However, compared to a motorcycle, with this three-wheel platform and just with the general size and width of this, you can stack all kinds of stuff on here. So this is one difference of this model. It does not come standard with the bags, so you can put whatever you want on here. Even if you just want to strap on your own stuff as you go, make something yourself, do the old-fashioned milk crate. That looks better on the old-fashioned Hondas, but you know, you can do anything you want here, and that's worth pointing out because if you accessorize it up with the boxes, you have to start thinking about should you move a trim level up. But certainly that big, large plate is a great option to fit a ton of stuff on here. And of course, you don't have to worry about the side-to-side imbalances as much as a motorcycle because it's all going to be on that three-wheel stable platform. So I want to quickly show you the rider's foot peg here, and I don't know that this is the best way to show it, but I'm wearing size 11 Nikes, and you can see it is much bigger. You know, maybe I'll put my hand next to it. It is a much wider, much longer peg than you would have on a typical adventure motorcycle. This is an aluminum, it feels aluminum, it's metal of some sort. Peg here, I'm sure it's aluminum, but it is much larger than you would typically find on a motorcycle. That's worth pointing out. Now this one does not have the rubber inserts that the Red Rock has, so we're going to show you that Red Rock in a second, and you can kind of see the differences. The Red Rock rubber inserts are of course removable, but let's just show you a couple more things before we move over to that Red Rock and start looking at all the differences between these two. So usually I show you the dash before I show you the controls. We're going to do things a little bit opposite here because I do want to touch on the Red Rock as well, and the dash, we're going to do a proper dash review in a future video. One thing I will say about this is if you have a reviewer like myself that sees a lot of motorcycles, this can look incredibly intimidating at first. What I do think though is once you sit down and understand it, this becomes everything at your fingertips, and it does become quite easy to use. So you do have the ability to switch through different modes. You have the ability to connect a handset up and use your speaking to this. You can have Apple CarPlay in that big 10.25 inch screen. You also have your headlights here, but there's your shifters down here. So that's the plus there, and I have a trigger on the same button, which is a downshift. So that is how you're going to shift, except you only have to upshift. It will downshift on its own, and when you come to a complete stop, you don't have to, you know, just keep your foot on the brake like an automatic transmission kind of thing. There's no clutch here. So what you end up with is basically a lot of bikes in this class are going to have quick shifters. Some are going to have automatic transmissions anyways. You do control upshifts, but you don't have to control downshifts. So it's kind of an interesting hybrid. I don't know why it's not fully automatic. You guys can ask the engineers that at some point. If you're wondering where your cruise control is over here, it's not on this side, it's on the other side. We'll just show you the other side for a second. But it is worth pointing out that you do have the trigger and thumb there to shift. And I will point out as well that this base model still has these handguards here, which I know this bike isn't going to tip over, but it seems like these are well strong enough to tip over. This is identical to the Red Rock. They don't have the extra hand wind protectors on here. This one does not have heated grips. The other models will. And why don't we show you that before we go across to the cruise control controls while we're here on this angle. Hopefully you can see. I don't know how dark it is. I'm going to just come to the other angle for a second. 1 second. So next to the key, dummy switch, dummy switch, dummy switch, dummy switch. You would expect that on the base model. The Red Rock has heated grips here, but the rest of them are free to add what you want. So it's not like you have like the tons of switches in every trim line. It's just worth pointing that out if I don't show it a little bit later. But We're gonna come across here, let's go a little bit wider angle, let's come back inside here. So you have your kill switch, you have your parking brake, because this is a three-wheel thing, you have a hazard lights, and then your cruise controls all down here. All of this, like I said, has a lot of buttons which can seem difficult to control, but a lot of us still like buttons, and this is a good system. Now, speaking of buttons, a lot of motorcycles don't have a touch screen, but this 10.25 inch screen is a full touch screen. So we're going to show you that in just a second. Let me just sort of figure out how to get the best view here. Cameras filming screens are never good, but I may have to sort of hold the camera myself. We'll do that. All right, so I did not bring my Steadicam today. I'm gonna try to do this as steady as I can with my hands. So just so you know where we're looking here, this is kind of your view out the front. Now remember, this knob here is the adjuster for your windscreen, and you can see that it comes up quite a ways here, and then it also sort of changes angle a little bit. So that is a really nice thing to have. One thing I will point out about this is it does seem a little more narrow than something like the Spider. I do think it's gonna give me a little bit more wind movement on my body, but we'll talk about that in the rider review. Sometimes the Spider can get hot on a hot day. I do think this is going to take the blast off you, but it may allow a little bit more breeze through, which is kind of nice to have on especially a hot day. Obviously, I think you can get handguards here, which are going to give you extra wind protection again. Some people complain about the mirrors here instead of on the body like the Spider, because they seem to think that you're turning and you can't see. Well, when you're in a turn, when you're turned enough, you're not going to need your mirrors. You're watching, like as you're going around a corner, you're watching the corner. As you're in straight and slowing down and various other things, these mirrors are perfectly positioned. So some people complain without having ridden it that the mirrors should be mounted like the Spider to the body because they always look behind you. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing that matters. These are very close to you, so they appear to give a larger view. So that's worth pointing out. All right, let's go to the turn of the bike to on. Now I have to switch hands here. We got to roll this forward a little bit. We're gonna start it, actually let's just start it right up. So I am wearing a microphone on me. You can probably still hear the engine, and that's fine. You can customize this in a whole bunch of different ways, but you do have kilometers an hour. The Spiders are always in miles per hour over there. You do have a fuel gauge down there. You have a temperature gauge over here. You've got your tachometer, which goes the opposite way in a clean bar graph that you can sort of see there, as well as having various other displays. So there's a lot of controls here you can do. You can still set your drive modes here from normal to sport to all-road to rally. Rally is going to allow you to, hopefully you can see it on the right side, rally is going to allow you to slip that rear wheel. So, oops, let's go back to that drive mode there. I'm gonna put it back, let's put it in normal again. Select that. So you do have the ability to switch that. Some people wondered if this trim would have that rally mode, and it absolutely does. And like I said, in that standing position here, you can unload the rear wheel by leaning yourself forward like this, leaning your body over the front wheels there, and that is going to allow you to have a little bit more fun with that rear wheel, especially on gravel roads. So we'll do a full dash review in the future, especially when we do the riding review, because I want to show you the I want to be able to show you the Apple CarPlay and that kind of stuff as well. So we'll do all that later, but a very good dash here. And like I said, it is a touchscreen. So if we went back to ride modes here, I could choose the sport here, I could choose the normal. So that is kind of a cool feature to have it as a touchscreen. All right, let's quickly compare some of the key differences between the Red Rock and this base model now. So taking a look at the seat here, like I said, the foam feels the same to me, but the surface is different. It does say Red Rock there. You do have the contrasting stitching. I would argue that maybe this is the exact same on the rear. Maybe it's a little more cushioned. I don't know. It doesn't feel that special. Now, there is a difference. Obviously, you can see the luggage, and when you get that luggage, you can see there's that little extra sort of filler space in here, which gives you a backrest. I believe that is mounted to the bag itself. So you do have the hard storage bags, the lockable storage, and of course, they are quality. A lot of times people miss the point of these little pieces right here. You can strap down a tent or other things, sleeping bag, all that kind of stuff. You can dry bag, all that kind of stuff. So you do have the ability to strap down extra things on the top box. You do not have that ability on these side boxes here. So sometimes they'll have the same type of thing there. They are side opening, not top opening. And to the best of my knowledge, these are the side bags are side opening, of course. To the best of my knowledge, these are the same bags, but different color than on the XT. Now the XT will have sort of silver bags. These are called premium. I'm guessing it's just the paint job. We'll find that out as we get to the XT. So that is a premium difference. The other thing is you really are paying for something that for some people it's going to have tremendous value, and other people are not going to see the value. Why is it so much more? This suspension really is something. So you've got that full adjustability, you've got that electronic adjustability, so that is something that is worth money, and it's going to make you know, push button adjustments, especially if you're going on and off road or you're going on really rough roads with this. You can soften it out, you can firm it out, you can do things with it, and there is absolutely value there. All right, we're going to keep going down here. I'm going to be a poor cameraman for a second. You can see down there is the same grips there. This is the brake sides area, so hopefully you can see that brake side without me getting too shaky over here. Oops, really shaky there. But you do have the rubber grips or rubber pads inside. Now those can be pinched and taken out, or pinched from the bottom and taken out, so they are the same grips. I'm sure you could add those rubber grips to the XT. Do you need them? Probably not. It's going to be a fairly smooth engine anyways, but it is worth noting that this one does have that rubber grips on both the passenger and the driver pegs there, and both of course of those are oversized. So that is one of the key differences here. We mentioned those switches up there. You do have the heated grips there. You have heated seats. This one doesn't have it on the rear seat on this side, but maybe on the other side. It is a, maybe it's not, I think it's a heated seat as well, but anyways, definitely the heated grip button is up in that area there. And we did mention the backup camera. Why don't we just quickly show you this from the back? We'll show you that backup camera as well. All right, so taking a look at the back here, you can see those lockable bags there, and then of course you've got the rear here. Let's just zoom in if we can get the right color there. Can you see that backup camera in the center of your screen? So that is a backup camera. It just has a little plate on the regular Canyon. So the regular Canyon is, in my mind, could be set up and accessorized with it. I would think so. I haven't checked all the accessories, but I would believe you could add it, but it is something that comes standard on this trim here. So it's worth pointing that out. So we did mention how this has the only one with this suspension. I do think it's going to ride fine for a lot of people. I do want to point out that this bodywork here that holds on the rear peg, this piece here is a piece of what you would need to hold the side bags on. So you absolutely can accessorize this with the side bags, but like I said, at some point when you start playing with the accessories, you have to make a decision if you want to go up to the improved or enhanced rear suspension, which I believe is just going to be an adjustable version of this suspension, or if you want to move up even further than that. So let's kind of break these two down for a second. So if my job is to help you decide which one of these is best for you, I do think it can very, very much depend on your personal preferences, because even if you look at the front here, you have identical lighting, you both still have these sort of bumper type things. These ones are sort of a matte gray, but of the same material as these ones. These ones are of course that orange kind of gold color, and the XT in the middle has red ones. So from the front perspective, you don't have the same coloring of the steel or plasticky steel looking skid plate, but you have the same functionality, you have the same tires, you have some styling packages. So from a capability standpoint, I would argue that this base level trim has the same capability as the Red Rock, just purely from the types of roads you're going to drive on. So really the reason to move up is because you're going to accessorize this enough to move to the XT, which is that in-between model, and it may be worth just going to the XT, or you want to go full on style and comfort. So comfort is a piece that's going to be added here, and that's that price you pay that you don't see. This suspension is technologically a big step up as far as being able to really customize and set that up. So if you like the style of this one, you're probably not going to care for the extra style pieces on this one. However, there are still some components. If adjustable suspension and a really quality ride absolutely everywhere matters to you, this one is going to have the most adjustability so that you can customize your ride. Now, if you trust Can-Am with your ride, this one's going to be fine as well. I do think the XT with that rear suspension might be worth having, because again, my assumption is it's somewhat adjustable, where this one doesn't appear to be, and if you're adding a lot of luggage on the rear, you can change it around, but it is a little different than a motorcycle. So it's complicated for sure. A lot of motorcycles will give you more capability as you move up, and sometimes that upgraded suspension gives you higher ground clearance, or they have different tires, that kind of thing. Really with these two, from a riding perspective, you're ending up with very, similar feels and very similar feel from a parking lot kind of setting. As you move on from there into the roads that you're actually going to be traveling on, the exploring type adventuring that you're going to be doing, there are certainly some legitimate reasons to move up in the trim line. So how can I help you out with this one? Well, I would say if you want to get into that Spider type crowd, but you're really more into hitting putting a dart at a map and going to a destination, and once you get there you explore from there, this is going to allow you to do all those highway miles that the Spider does, but it is going to give you the ability to head down rougher roads, to head down those dirt roads, those gravel roads, those unfinished, even those forest roads. It's going to give you the ability. It is a rear-wheel drive. Some people say, hey, I want three-wheel drive. I don't think you do when you think about the cost and everything else and the fuel mileage hit that would be, but it is something that's going to get you capably down any road that you would want to go. Rough roads, gravel roads, dirt roads, all of that exploring. So that would be the reason to move to this from the Spider. Personally, I like the seating position on this the best, or on the RT. The F3 is the sportier variant, the Spider F3 is the sportier variant, but to me, I don't know that you gain enough sportiness for my tastes to give up some of the capability you get with this. This would be perfect for me, and maybe the XT. The Red Rock, if you've got the money, if you want the highest end, probably one that's going to hold its value because it does have that electronic suspension. That's really, to me, the key to move to this one. And of course, everything's all set up. You buy it from the showroom, you take it out as you go. Now, you can still add accessories to this one. There are places to add link accessories. There are other things you can do. So check the option list if you want to do that. But I think what's interesting is the base model and mid-level model may be the ones for most people. I don't know that every person wants to strive for this one. I think there's a niche market that will want this one, but I think the mid-level to base is where the meat of the market is in this unit. So that's my opinion. You can tell me I'm wrong. I'm not trying to say what you should do, but I do think people who are satisfied with the ride as is are going to take this or the XT. I do think people that want the best of the best and really want to have that pinpoint adjustment are going to take this, and that's the biggest difference to me, because both of these in my mind are equally capable. So there's my review, or my comparison review of these two. I know it was a little bit longer. We're going to come back with riding reviews on this. We're going to have more information. If you'd like to see a comparison of something, I think I've done this to the Spider. There's a few other videos that I've done, but feel free to search my site, Peter Lowe 1, and put the name of whatever vehicle you're looking for, and you'll be able to see all the videos I've done. There will be more on this in this summer especially. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you in the next one.